Hello and welcome to a special Gooners podcast, what we call a pop-up edition, because I just popped up and decided to do a podcast. Once again, Andy is off gallivanting. I think he's on his way home from Vancouver, so we'll hopefully be back together in holy wedded matrimony again after the Europa League final. But I do have a guest on today who I've been chatting with recently, and I wanted to really kind of pick his brain a little bit about something that's been going on. We have Brandon McKenna with us. He's on Twitter at Arsenalistrator. Brandon, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's I'm fascinated by if you've watched the podcast in the last couple of weeks, I've been talking at every opportunity about this Europa League final thing. Just the whole, I'm kind of a social warrior. I like the idealisticness of making stands against things that are wrong. Call me a snowflake, call me an enormous snowflake, but that's who I am. So, something you've done obviously recently caught my eye, and that is the petition to move the Europa League final that is going to be played in 72 hours with the team already there. But they weren't there yet when the petition got started. So you are the creator of Boycott Baku and Unequal Play. And is it Unequal Play? Yeah, it's a play on the UEFA. So I wanted to ask you a couple questions about this and, just generally see where the idea came from. So tell me when your feelings about this started and then when you decided to do something about it.
Yeah, I guess this really started kind of like the growing frustration kicked off initially with the Carabag tie. So like not kind of having the opportunity for one of our players to travel and kind of play the game he loves because of an immutable characteristic was something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I guess like since then there's been kind of like a growing tension, and obviously it's kind of come to a head over the last week or so. But now with kind of it, in addition to the logistical problems that obviously a lot of people are having to actually get to Baku for the final, having UEFA pick like a host venue that essentially deters at an essential level people from being able to go because of something that they're not able to change is something that I kind of wanted to take a stand against in the small way that I could. And I just started the change.org petition, and it's kind of been crazy. It's over 22,000 people now who have signed it.
Yeah, I checked it right before we started recording. It was right around 22.3, maybe a couple short of 22.3. And when you look at the petition, you see the numbers are updating real time. I mean, that's the weirdest thing. I've never had one of those tweets on Twitter where you actually see the likes and the retweets growing and jumping, like anytime that Arsblog posts something or anything that anyone not named me puts on Twitter, but it's fascinating. And so I first heard about it from you directly because we we share a Twitter DM group with a bunch of other American Gooners, which is appropriately named American Gooners. The marketing people behind these chats are unbelievable. But so I heard about it fairly early on. But when did it get started? I mean, we're talking 23 signatures in what period of time?
So it's been, I think it was 4 days ago that the actual petition was kicked off. So it started, I just kind of shared it on Twitter initially. And it gained traction pretty quickly, kind of surprisingly so. But I think it's something that a lot of people really kind of like can identify with in terms of being a frustration. So I don't know, it's been kind of crazy to watch it grow so drastically and like have the coverage that it has had.
Can you trace where the leap came? I mean, usually there's somebody that latches onto it, some media organization or Twitter influencer or somebody who spreads the word about it, and then it kind of catches on. I mean, I've always been fascinated about what takes certain social media viral. I mean, I'm convinced that my Twitter is broken because every 5 minutes or so I post just a gem. I mean, it's just incredible, hilarious, amazing stuff. And, I get like 2 likes and 2 retweets. One of them is from my buddy Rob. and then the other retweets from the Football Gerbil, which is a Twitter account I control. So I haven't been able to figure it out yet. But you've obviously got the secret. So when did you first notice that hey, this thing just went from from 5 or 10 or 50 to 100 people to thousands?
Yeah, it was kind of, I guess, kind of interesting because it had the kind of like slow growth up to just like over 1K. And I actually like went to bed like the night after having posted it and woke up, and there was like the first Sports Bible article that was kind of covering it. And I think as soon as like one kind of media platform actually did cover it, it got picked up by a couple others. And then like throughout the next couple of days, it started picking up more traction in the English media specifically, and then also kind of like internationally. So yeah, I think it would not have grown if there wasn't the visibility that was kind of lent to it from having the coverage. But
yeah, I mean, I've seen blurbs on Talk Sport, Daily Mail, and I have once experienced that where where something gets picked up by a media organization. Unfortunately, it was a video I took from the third row of the Arsenal Crystal Palace game a few years ago of everyone telling the team they're not fit to wear the shirt. So that wasn't really what I wanted my claim to fame to be. But but then you all of a sudden you get the Sun asking if they can use it. No, you cannot use it. But you get other somewhat less unreputable places. But yeah. And have you noticed anything? I mean, if you've looked at do you just stay? Do you look at it all day and just say wow, or do you just check it every once in a while? In other words, do you have anything else going on in your life, unlike me?
Yeah. So actually, like the first couple of days, I was like checking it way more frequently. Now I'm just kind of like checking in every once in a while and trying to
like 10,000 people you give a look.
Just like more trying to like make sure that I can like post updates to the people that have like actually signed it or kind of retweeted the initial tweet. But yeah, it's kind of funny because I'm actually almost graduating from business school right now, so it's like kind of a crunch time academically for me. And is it too late for like this to be some sort of like the equivalent of a science project? I guess that would be what, a dissertation, or no, that's for a PhD, research thesis.
Yeah, exactly. How to do things that are ultimately symbolic and have them blow up in social media. I mean, that would be. You have to go back and get your doctorate in that, I guess. Now, have any of these media organizations that picked up any of these, so-called media things like Talk Sport and Daily Mail, have they asked you for an interview yet? No, it's actually, I was kind of taken aback when I saw it initially, just because there was nobody asked for permission or like reached out.
The actual petition itself, or my account on change.org, is linked to my Twitter, so it's like pretty obviously there. But no, nothing yet. So we're the innovators, bringing fascinating stories to people. Yet no one cares. I'm just kidding. But have you well, what I was going to get at was if you've looked at the kind of signing roll where it just kind of updates whether you're looking at it on your phone or not. Have you noticed what I've noticed in the past 1 or 2 days? Specifically in the last probably. Now we haven't discussed this, but yeah, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. 36 hours. There's been, so it actually got a fair amount of pickup in Armenia specifically. So there's been a huge jump in support of people of Armenian descent. Actually, a lot of people in Southern California too. I mean, you look at. I mean, well, that's just System of a Down and their relatives, because I know they live in Hollywood. But yeah, I mean, the names on the scroll. I mean, you'll see the YAN. 50 names go by, and 49 of them end in YAN and IAN, and then one of them ends in Berg. But no, I mean it's. I was struck by that a couple of days ago, because I don't remember it being like that earlier on in the thing, and now all of a sudden it's an Armenian sounding name, and I just was wondering whether you had some awareness that it was actually being publicized in Armenia itself. Yeah, I think that's been one of the coolest things about it, I guess, because it's hard to kind of separate this as like a petition or like a call to action for UEFA from the obvious like political association and kind of like ramifications of having something like this put out there. But I think it's been kind of like really encouraging, because it has I don't know, in actually starting it initially, what I wanted to do was kind of do whatever I could, as small and insignificant and potentially futile as it may have seemed, to give people a voice for like voicing their kind of collective frustrations. And it's been cool to see it like picked up specifically in Armenia, as a means of kind of like pushing back against an institution that is kind of explicitly discriminating against them by awarding a country.
You do know that you are never going to Azerbaijan now, right?
Yeah, I will never. I will not be.
I mean,
there's actually been, like one of the other.
You're gonna have to cancel your family's vacation there in 5 years because they're gonna have you on a list.
It's there's been some coverage as well from Azerbaijani. So shout out Google Translate for letting me read some
wow.
I haven't been able to read otherwise. But
are they putting like a death claim, like are they sending people to Chicago?
I mean, it's been like very kind of like politically almost like propagandic, where they're kind of like characterizing me as an Armenian plant from Chicago, which is really interesting because I'm just like a regular Gooner.
Are they really doing that?
Yeah, like so.
That's hilarious.
I don't know. I definitely probably will never be visiting Azerbaijan, unfortunately, because apparently Baku is actually like quite an interesting city to visit. But
yeah, as with any city or government that oppresses, usually the people and the country itself are just beautiful. But
yeah, and I think that's like one of the things that I've tried. So I like posted a couple updates on the petition itself, and then also like on Twitter. But like trying to separate that this is not like a claim against the people of Baku specifically. Like this is more about trying to kind of push back against UEFA as an institution, and kind of whatever we can to hold them accountable and kind of hopefully ensure that something like this never happens again.
Well, look, I mean, pushing back against corrupt and enormous, organizations like FIFA, like UEFA, like certain governments, there's not always a lot of fruit in the labor, but it's not about the fruit. It's about kind of planting seeds that bloom over a long period of time. And I don't mean to use hyperbole and overstate this in anything, but I just think what you've done is great. I'm sure you were far from the only person feeling that way. I know that I share those feelings, and I've been using my teensy tiny little platform to just express my thoughts on the matter, and frankly been fairly critical of the way that Arsenal has handled this as well. And I just because there's blame to go around in more than one direction. Certainly the blame emanates from one direction or two, and that's UEFA and the Azerbaijani government. But I too was talking about this and kind of wringing my hands about what to do back in August when I kind of first learned that Azerbaijan had this policy, because the way I learned about it was through the Mkhitaryan thing. I mean, I hadn't really been paying attention when he was playing for Dortmund, and that he didn't go there. But when we got drawn against them and just decided that it was a meaningless game, so we won't take them, that was, to me, that was the wrong stance to take. I mean, your thoughts on whether this was something that should have been brought up earlier with a stand such as a boycott of that game, or B, do you think it's too late now for Arsenal to have done anything? Clearly, their decision is made that they're looking out for his safety, but they're not going to use this to throw a gauntlet down and make a stand. But I mean, what were your thoughts on August and then the way they handled it this time?
Yeah, I think that was like one of the things that initially disheartened me about the going to Baku initially for the Karabag tie, was that this was a real opportunity for Arsenal to take a stand for what at least I believe is right, and I think a lot of people from just a moral imperative standpoint can kind of feel is the right thing to do. And I don't know. I think one of the things that's been most frustrating about the whole thing is that UEFA literally has built this campaign called Equal Game that's based on the idea of football being for everybody, and it being the game of the people essentially. And when you have a decision that's made that excludes a whole group of people from being able, not only Mickey, but anybody of Armenian descent from getting a visa to go travel and see the game,
British Armenian fans of Arsenal were turned away from getting visas, in the hundreds or, dozens. I don't know how many, but one is too many.
Exactly. And I think it's been really interesting to see kind of the comparison between how Arsenal and how Chelsea have handled this too. Because I think Arsenal, ideally, I don't know. I think one of the fair criticisms of the petition itself is that it is too little too late. And objectively, I agree with that. But I think it's less about obviously enacting a shift of venue and more about kind of like giving voice to those frustrations. And I think Arsenal has done a good job to an extent. And I guess there's been a little dissonance there because they really could have taken a more kind of stark stand against racism and against inequality and against injustice. But I don't know. I guess especially like in comparing it with how Chelsea handled it, it took the Chelsea Supporters Trust releasing like a very, very kind of like vehement and I guess impactful statement against the decision generally and how Chelsea had handled it for them to even make a statement at all.
Yeah, and it's surprising because for everything that we all know about Chelsea supporters, and it's not pretty. Recently, anyway, the Chelsea club itself has been fairly proactive about doing symbolic anti-hate, anti-exclusion things. I mean, they sent a delegation to the March of the Living in Poland and Israel the last few weeks that my daughter actually was on and ran into them. They sent, their friendly that cost them Ruben Loftus-Cheek was a friendly to raise money and to recognize the killings in the Pittsburgh, among other things, the anti-Semitic killings in Pittsburgh. So, I actually, for once, have a lot of respect for how Chelsea handles their social political issues. And, because of that, I would have thought that there was something that the joint bully pulpit of having the two teams in the final could have done. But, it's the type of thing where if there's a crack in that elite alliance, somebody's going to get really, really hurt from a football standpoint. And I don't think people were willing to do it. And, I know a lot of people I respect and I like who agree with them not having done that. Too much at stake. I've seen people who have made it about Mkhitaryan. If it was, why are we trying to get rid of him? And now all of a sudden you're saying he's important. You guys are being hypocritical. That's just ridiculous. It isn't about how important he is to the team. It's about the fact that he is on the team.
Yeah.
He's a member of our team. And while not being excluded, the invitation for him to come is to be forced and really not genuine in my mind is the same as not being welcome at all. So yeah, I think there's blame to go around. It sucks. This game on Wednesday is going to be just a mockery of football. I hope it's not poor football, especially from our guys. And gosh, the game's being played. We need to win it, and we need to win it badly. But I can't imagine what the atmosphere there is going to be like. I can't imagine what's going to happen if anybody starts with these chants and the signs and the things that they say they're going to punish.
UEFA has like explicitly come out and said that they will be on the lookout for kind of like any stands in solidarity with Mickey, essentially.
I'm going to be corrupt AF, but if you say anything about how corrupt I am, I'm going to get even more corrupt on your ass.
That's what's like, I don't know. I do feel like to an extent, like this sounds obviously hyperbolic, but this not because of this petition by any means, but like this event generally feels like it is kind of a critical point and potentially like an inflection point in the way that we kind of like interact with football as a game. And the way that UEFA has handled it literally at every turn has just been kind of like not only condoning, but like expressly supporting their, like, not only a country that is, I don't know, has a according to like Human Rights Watch, like a very problematic record of like dealing with their people, not only internally, but also like how they've kind of interacted with their neighboring states, but also like just given how much pushback there has been and how much opportunity there was to really kind of reinforce football as being a truly equal game. I think they really kind of just dropped the ball. And I don't know, I've been encouraged by how much pushback there has been and how much support generally. I think one of the funny things is like the petition is kind of like the name itself calls for the switch to Wembley. And I think from the get-go, and something I wrote as part of like the actual initial petition statement was like this, like I recognize that this is a completely unrealistic demand to be making and it's not going to happen, but it's like a means of raising awareness. And I think that for the people who haven't just read the title, because there's been a fair amount of those specifically on Twitter who are like, oh, what, like this is dumb. Why? Like obviously it's not going to get changed. Like the people who have actually taken the time to read the petition, there's been so much support, because I think one of the things that makes football truly a beautiful game is that like it is for everybody, and all you need is a ball and some people to play with. And by having kind of like an institutional exclusion of any group of people, UEFA is just blatantly and objectively undermining their own position.
Yeah, it's like that. The football is for everybody until we decide that it's only going to be for some people, and
so you could pay us to make it exclusive.
Yeah, football's for everybody until I get more money than the other people are willing to give me. I mean, Armenia clearly didn't give them enough money, so there they go. Couple of things. First of all, have you reached out to System of a Down? I mean, I'm on this huge System of a Down kick, but like I say that. Only about 80% joking, because
they're great representatives of like specifically the Southern California Armenian community. But yeah, I haven't like specifically reached out. I mean, I've been like active on Twitter and kind of like.
Let's get on that afterwards, because I know that they've been in on tour the last couple of weeks, but you get in touch with them and then I'll go and meet them. But the other thing is I think the moral of this episode is it's never too late to say something. I mean, as soon as we finish this podcast, I'm starting a petition to replay the 2006 Champions League final. I really have some problems with a couple of things. The red card.
Traction. That's been I think one of the things that's had kind of like a strange effect on the public perception of this as a petition has been how much publicity petitions generally have been getting recently, specifically like Liverpool petitions. And I don't know. The other thing that's been kind of funny is
they do a petition to win a trophy for second place, because they really should.
Which is just mind-numbing, but I don't know. I guess it's kind of, it's also been funny because a lot of people are like, the British, they love their petitions, but I'm just like an American. You're like trying to use whatever I can to. I don't know,
McKenna. You could say you're Scottish or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, there's been a lot of McKennas that have signed the petition too, which is funny.
That's funny.
Mostly in Ireland.
So what is after the dust settles, and how media and publicity works, about a couple of days after this is all over, if not before, it'll be go back into the shadows until the next time something gets brought up. So what is your next petition, social media campaign? Is this going to be a habit for you, or is this a one-off?
Yeah, I don't know. I've actually been kind of like thinking about that, and it's obviously it hasn't been a lot of time, but like reflecting on kind of like why I did this and like how surprisingly effective it has been in terms of like becoming a platform where people can express their frustrations. And I think, I don't know, I feel like as fans of football, we kind of have this obligation almost, or like this general responsibility to stand up when we think something is wrong. And I'm not really sure what the next steps realistically might be for me to kind of like continue pushing back against you. I mean, like me versus UEFA, which is absolutely ridiculous to say, but I don't know. I think it's really important that we don't let this fall into the kind of the trend of something being really important for a very short amount of time and then kind of losing its importance or its like visibility, and the push to kind of increase its visibility for like I don't know.
There's an issue here in the States that seems to be very much like that, where an incredible tragedy happens, and I'm not making light of anything here. For a couple weeks, it's it is all people can talk about, and then just time goes by and people just forget about it, and everyone says they want to stop school shootings and that sort of thing. And then, everyone just kind of forgets because nothing's happened. And then 2 weeks later, 2 months later, it happens again. And I'm not comparing the two by any means. I'm just saying that's kind of how our society is that, there's a fast and furious furor over something. Yeah. And just as quickly, it sinks back into the subconscious. So I hope that doesn't happen. I think what you've done is a great thing. I think you've been realistic about it. You've been you've gone well beyond your years, my friend. And speaking of years, I've been spending all day just reminiscing and soaking in the glory of 30 years ago today, and it just makes me absolutely sick that you were -5 at the time. Yeah,
I was a twinkle in the eye.
Oh, geez, you young bucks are gonna kill me. I am old AF, and I don't like it. But one of the good things about being old is that you actually got to experience that. Yeah. And I took a quick break out of watching '89 to chat with you, and so I got to get back to that because it's a pressing issue. But
understandably so.
Yeah, but look, great job, Brandon. Tell me what how can we reach you on Twitter? I know that you have some hobbies related to Arsenal beyond just petitions. So tell us a little bit about your Arsenal illustrator. I can't even say it because I want to say it.
So it's almost been a year since I created like an Arsenal specific Twitter account. So I actually started with like the handle O2B a Gooner because everybody calls me B all the time. So made the switch when I started kind of sharing more of my like football related illustrations specifically. So kind of do some digital illustrations. You can check them out, I guess, if you're interested in looking. They're all on my actual Twitter account.
It's great stuff, and I think we need to talk a little bit more about how we can a little partner. We got Gooners versus Cancer coming up. We've got send Mike to London. We've got all kinds of different things coming up. So, but keep up the good work. I respect what you've done. Thanks for joining me for 20 minutes or so and talking about how it's going, and maybe we'll have a chance to talk again sometime soon.
I would love that. That'd be amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this.
Oh, my pleasure. All right. Take care, Brandon. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
And come on, you Gooners.